Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I'm working on a Volvo S40, I believe, 59, is it? Yeah, 60 plate, so it's that 2010? Yeah, that's about right. So customer had an MOT and it failed on both front wishbones and both front anti-roll bar drop links. That's what it's failed on. So today we're replacing those. And customer supplied all parts. They are different brands from each other, just for your information really. So that's it for that. I'll show you as things progress. I love this. So I use this tool for prying the wishbones down. It is very helpful. It saves you having two people to actually do the job. So yeah, anyway, crack on. Whoop, whoop. So continuing on this Volvo, I'll show you. There's a heap of rust, like loads of it. That's been making contact with the disc. You can see there, it's literally, definitely making contact. Come to think about it, it ceased. Oh, it's not even spinning on. What the hell? Wow, I ain't even turning. That's not good. Yeah, that's literally going to fall apart. Oh, it's already fallen apart. There you go. So I thought, oh, need to pull that away. Can't leave it like that. Yeah, that's making full contact. I mean, it is literally, oh yeah, underneath as well. At the bottom, look. Switch on the light. There you go. Yeah, it's making full contact there as well. Just there. Yeah, so that is definitely shot. Personally, I'd remove it altogether. If you don't want to replace it with an original part, just get rid of it. It will cause more problems than it's worth. Looking at the shock absorbers, they seem dry, so that's alright. The wishbones, yeah, they're very rusty. I mean, it's most likely the back bush that's gone rather than the front. Looking at the bottom ball joint, that actually seems okay, like physically anyway. So, alright. Well, let's carry on. I've just realised anti-roll bar drop links are wrong, unless they're the ones for the back, which is possible. So, looking at the anti-roll bar drop links, these are the ones they supplied, which I would say these are for the rear, most likely. So we've got front wishbones and rear anti-roll bar drop links, not the fronts. I thought they were the fronts actually at the first look, right? Because the long are very long, like very long. There's no way it's them. So which we've got to go to the back end at some point. Once we've done the front wishbones, we've got to switch to the rear. And the customer also said that there's a problem with the exhaust. And the issue with the exhaust is that basically I think it's got the back box missing. Someone decided they didn't like it, I suppose, and removed it and replaced it with a straight pipe, and also welded a bracket onto it. But that bracket has broken off, so the exhaust, the MOT guy actually, I don't know if he failed it on that or if he just advised it. I didn't really check it properly, look at the MOT sheet, but so we will look at the back end and see what's going on there. Whoop, whoop. We've hit a smaller issue. I'll show you. So I'm pretty sure I done a little video on this a minute ago, but I'll show you anyway. So do you remember the plate, the stone chip plate here? Well, basically showed the customer exactly what's what, and he said remove it. So I'm in the process of removing that. Whoop, whoop. Right, so I'll remove the plate. I'll show you. All that's left of it is just this little part of the bracket here, which I folded it over the wishbone, the hub, just to make sure it's not going to catch on anything. The bolt is so badly corroded, I don't think that will ever come off. It probably would, with a lot of heating and bashing and whatnot, but there's no point. That's that. And I've now removed, so if you look at my tool that's attached to the wishbone, I was literally sitting on it like this, bashing with the hammer to this part of the hub. So that's all sorted now. Yeah, so it's now off, as you can tell. I've already loosened the bolt there. That's one of the main bolts for the wishbone. The back ones I've loosened too, so it should hopefully just come off. Whoop, whoop. So continuing on with this Volvo suspension replacement, I should say wishbones actually. So I'll show you how. So there's the wishbone. Bushes themselves are absolutely okay. I don't really see any damage. I mean, there's a little bit of movement in it, but that's normal. There's no cracking or anything like that in the bush. There is very slight break here, just there. It's not much. Yeah, actually that's coming away a little bit, but there's no actual movement in it, you know. So the back bushes generally don't tend to go. I should say the front bush. That's the front bush actually. Again, no movement. The ball joint, yeah, there's too much excess play on that, definitely. But that's obviously not, the noise you can hear isn't that. So other than that, I think it's most down to corrosion why they wanted to replace this wishbone, because it doesn't really seem like there is something seriously wrong with it, unless the other side is totally buggered. That's also possible. Now this thing, see, got in gear, which it isn't, because I made sure it was in neutral. It doesn't want to turn at all, unless that wheel bearing is totally shot. I can't really see it being that bad, surely. Cracking on. Whoop, whoop. So continue on this Volvo wishbone replacement. So it's now fitted, I'll show you. So the nut is back on. That's all greased up to make sure it went nice and easy. Also with these two bolts here, those two, again all greased up to make sure it's fitted properly. This last one here, on this side, that bolt there, I left it loose because it's a type of bush that moves up and down like this. You have to make sure there's load on the bush. You actually replace it before you tighten it up to the torque settings, because if you don't, you're putting excess pressure, that's the word I was thinking of, onto the bush, unnecessary. So obviously as the ride height goes up with the weight of the car going onto the suspension, it will deteriorate very, very quickly. So you don't want to do that. So that's why I left it loose. Once the car's on the ground, I will tighten it up from front of the car once it's lowered down. Otherwise I could jack up the wishbone from underneath, put the weight on it and then tighten up. Those are the two methods of doing it. So I'm actually going to go with the second one anyway. I'm going to jack up the whole suspension, put the weight on the actual bush, tighten it up, job done. Alright, quickly show you what I'm doing with this, the way I'm going to basically tighten up this bolt over there for the wishbone. It's now, if you look, there is no contact between the jack stands and the bottom of the car, so which means all the weight is now on the jack, so therefore the spring is now compressed on the shock, so therefore all the weight is exactly as it should be, as if it was load. So this is the right way to actually tighten up that last bolt to make sure there's correct tension on it, and you're not going to destroy that bush later on. So carrying on with this Volvo wishbone replacement. So I've just noticed, same again on this side, that's broken. In fact, someone actually ripped out the bottom half of that already. I'm going to rip the rest of it off, definitely, because that will definitely rub against the disc. On the other note, this one is much more free turning. I mean, I say much, a bit easier, but not exactly easy. And this brake caliper on the other side clearly has been replaced, as it is nice and silver. I'll show you actually. would have seen it in the other videos anyway, but you can definitely see it's definitely been replaced at some point, without a doubt. So this one is very corroded, extremely corroded. Wouldn't surprise me if this nipple for bleeding actually snaps if someone was to go and bleed it. Simply because I'm not here to do that. However, I will advise for this caliper to be replaced at some point, even though it doesn't really feel like it's seized. But that brake pipe there is extremely corroded. I'm surprised the MOT guy never actually picked up on it, you know. And also I've just noticed something else. If you look at that, that is very, very corroded right along the subframe. So I would say this is the reason why you would do proper inspections on vehicles that oh, here's the bush that's gone, that bush there, that's the one that's totally shot. The other side weren't too bad, but this side I can literally see it, all the bushes perished all the way around. I'll obviously, once I remove it, see it further, but it's definitely got brand new discs and pads on it. However, whoever's fitted it, maybe they might not have greased up the carrier pins. Don't know, it's possible. Anyway, cracking on. Whoop, whoop. Right, so I've just removed the other wishbone, right? The other one's out. You can't see it because it's a bit dark. Anyway, I'll show you properly in a minute. However, I've noticed something. If you look at this, excuse my moving around. So there's the exhaust bracket. That's most likely what the advisory was about. But there's the other, the back box exhaust is also hanging off. Or exhaust back box bracket, I should say. That's also hanging off. So yeah, that will need to be addressed at some point. I'll advise the customer that's either got to be welded back on, that would need someone who's a mobile welder, or they can take it to an exhaust place and get it. Yeah, that's got to be definitely sorted, because I was just checking this, I'll show you, I was just checking this dog bone, hold on, where's the pry bar? Because it's a very common thing in these cars for these dog bone wishbones, dog bone bushes to go. It don't really feel very stable, to be honest. It's possible that it is shot. It's hard to see properly, and maybe it is broken. I don't know. Very hard to tell at this angle, but it has definitely got, and I can even move it by hand. So which means, yeah, that's definitely gone. Yeah, that is gone. So I'm literally just moving it by hand at the moment. As you can see, it's definitely moving about. There's also oil leak, gearbox oil leak there, which could explain why these wheels are so tight. They don't want to move, unless the wheel bearing on one side is shot. That's also possible. Anyway, continuing on. Whoop, whoop. Continuing on with the Volvo wishbones, I'll show you how bad this wishbone is worn. Just doing gently this, it shouldn't have any movement at all. And on the back, spin it around, there's almost no material left in it. It's moving quite badly, so that was definitely a good shout on whoever diagnosed it. Well, it would have been the MOT guy, I suppose. Other than that, it is really corroded badly, this car. Must have been sat for quite a long time, or it came from a seaside. Anyway, continuing on. Whoop, whoop. So, continuing on this Volvo wishbone repair or replacement. Interesting. So, some brands of wishbones, like this particular brand, doesn't really say the brand, but it's just for Ford, and it's got a, there it is. There's the brand name, Equiv, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, comes with new bolts, weirdly only for the two on the back end, not the front end. So there's the two bolts there that replaces these two. But the big bolt, which is the fat one for the front end, doesn't come with that, unless it did and someone took it out or whatever. But in that some brands do supply bolts, others don't. and I suppose that's probably the price difference you're paying for the bolt was being supplied or not. Yeah, just thought it's an interesting observation, let's say. So, just finished the front wishbones on this Volvo, done both of them, but they supplied drop links, front anti. I thought they were front anti-roll bar drop links, but when I removed the wheel, the drop links were actually massive. They're really tall, like taller than my head. I mean, that's not that it's necessarily tall, but anyway. So I told the customer, obviously I didn't see the MOT failure sheet, whether it was for the front, whether it was for the rear, didn't have a clue. All I've seen is the parts that they bought, and I looked at the parts and I assumed they were for the front, because the Subaru ones, as an example, they're quite short. So I thought maybe the Volvo ones are short too. Then I should have known from my own car, really, that they were wrong. I just didn't pay attention at that time. I didn't really think. So when we looked at the MOT failure sheet, turns out it's for the rear, not for the front. So now I've finished the front, which means I've got to concentrate. I've got to jack up the rear end. As you'll see from the videos that I've recorded previously, you'll see that the exhaust bracket on the flexi pipe, which is part of the catalytic converter as well, is actually broken. And also the rear part of the exhaust, where it's near the back box, that's also broken. So the two options are: one, get a replacement flexi, which at the mileage it's at, it's probably a good idea, and it will come with the bracket as well. So 2 birds, 1 stone and all that. On the back end, I'll have to look to see if it's how far along the separate flanges to be able to separate the back end from the rest of the system. So if that separates, great, which means I don't have to, or they don't have to, get a welder in to do the work. Now it depends on if they can get a mobile welder. If they can get a mobile welder, lucky them. I would say it's most likely cheaper to get. Then again, you'd have to get me to finish the job to fit the actual flexi and the new bracket, which means it depends on what they want to do, really. They just want to sell the car. So if they sell the car with just welded brackets, it will pass MOT, but how long it will last, different story. Then again, that's down to the next person to decide. If they do a proper inspection, they'll notice that it was welded. But then again, that comes to the new person's accessibility to the car, to the purchasing of the car. If they take someone with them who knows what they're talking about, or if they just go look at the car and go, oh, it looks really nice, thank you very much. Well, that's up to them to decide. And if they look at the MOT failure sheet and go, okay, that was previously recorded, so has that been fixed? Check it, it's important. And if you don't, then you will soon find out that the issue is that it's been fixed, but whether it's been fixed properly or not. Those are things that a buyer and a seller has to agree on, I suppose. That's where the price negotiation comes in. So always, if you can, take a mobile mechanic or some kind of mechanic who does these services. I do. You can take me with you as an example, depending on how far it is from my location to get to the location of the car. I'll give you a price, and if you're happy with it, then we'll go ahead. And also, no mechanic in this world can guarantee that whatever they check can be 100% correct. That's impossible, because there's always going to be things that are hidden behind other stuff that you can't get to, or the owner of the car will not allow you to remove things, to see things, So you can only see what you can physically see. You can't necessarily remove parts and you go, oh, okay, this is shot, kind of thing. You can't do that. Especially if it's a privately owned car. No one's going to want you to go and ripping their car apart and stuff, They're not going to be happy with that. So anyway, I've done the front now. It's all wrapped up. There's the old parts here. Yeah, they were definitely shot, without a doubt. And so yeah, now we can crack on with the back anti-roll bar drop links and see how bad this exhaust bracket is on the back as well. Cracking on! Whoop whoop! Hi. So we are now on the back of the Volvo that I was doing the wishbones on, and we're going to now look at the rear anti-roll bars in this exhaust bracket that is broken. So let's get on with it. I'll show you. So there's the broken anti-roll bar drop link right there. It's literally come off totally. So that's great. And this side is okay. Oh, so the bolt broke off. Okay, so there's the bottom. There's the bolt. It goes all the way through. On this one, the bolt's actually snapped right there. So yeah, that's that. And the exhaust is this bit here. That's come off basically. Turns out, I don't think it's actually meant to have a back box, even though I would have expected for it to have a back box, but there is a back box there, back there. So I'm wondering if that is the back box. So if you look at the front of the vehicle, about somewhere there, just past that back resonator, so that little cylinder looking box, that's the resonator, and that's also just past that there's a joint, and that's where the flexi pipe is, where it's broken. So yeah, doesn't really look like there's any joints in it. It looks like it's just one complete piece. I mean, looking at it, starting from the back end, working our way back, there's no joints in here, it's just complete piece. Yeah, there can be no joints, no joints, no joints. There is literally just one complete piece. The downside to it is that you can see the joint just past the cylinder, just past the resonator. However, it's literally two ends on it. Let me show you. It's there. So hold on. It's there. There's the broken bit. So look there. Return it. Right. So basically, if they want to replace this back part of the exhaust, they would have to replace the whole lot, right back to the flexi, which I don't think they'd want to do, considering it's selling the car. They wouldn't like to do, I wouldn't have thought. So the best option really, I would say, is to replace, to get this welded. I mean, it's not the best of the metal, but there's still metal on there. Should be able to weld that back on, even if it's temporary. Maybe build up some material around it. Yeah, they should be able to do that. And hopefully they can do the same with the back end, or the front end, and get it all wrapped up, and then they can hopefully flog it off. I'm just going to do these wishbones. I might have to release these bolts. They look very corroded. I don't really want to touch them if I can help it. Otherwise I might have to shift one end at a time, or I need to put something under the wheels to jack up the actual wheels. Yeah, because there's a lot of tension on it. I can't even move it by hand. It just doesn't even budge. So which means I've got to jack up one wheel at a time. Otherwise I can put the axle stand on the actual wishbones, and that will release the tension from the wheels, from the anti-roll bar itself. It is quite rusty as well, looking at it. It's just peeling off. A lot of rust on this car, everywhere it seems. Looking at the hubs, the springs are okay, which is good. I mean, looking at the little tension spring there for the caliper, even that is rusted. So yeah, there's a lot of surface rust and a lot of proper rust all over this vehicle. Anyway, let's crack on. Right, So, what a bastard of a job this was. So, to replace the anti-roll bar drop links, which are these fuckers, new ones. First of all, customer got the wrong one. Someone else actually bought the parts for them, so whoever that someone else was messed up a little bit. And getting them off was a right bastard. So they were absolutely seized on very, very well. But I'll show you. I literally managed to get them, butchered them, literally in pieces. So I'll show you. So that's the one that actually broke originally. That's the one that I managed to get off, not in one piece. I mean, the bolt itself is in one piece, however the rest of it isn't. Like, it's literally butchered in pieces. The nuts were downsized because they're meant to be 13s. Well, they're meant to be 14s, and I managed to get a 13mm socket on it, bashed it on, and that's how I got it off. In fact, if you look up there, my sockets are still on, both of them are still hammered on just to release them. I actually released the actual anti-roll bar itself from the main bushes to give me a bit of play. They were also downsized due to rust, so I had to hammer sockets on there. Oh, it's been a nightmare. Anyway, so got these from GSF. It's the nearest and the only open place around here. When I say around here, I'm in Cheshunt, and they're in Enfield, Brimsdown. It's about a 20-minute drive from here. But I asked the customer if they could go and get it for me. They said, yep, no problem. So I pre-ordered them, click and collect. All they had to do was pay for it, which they did. However, they probably didn't realize, even though I asked his missus, I said to his missus that there was going to be two of these. This is just one side, and they're universal, so switchable. The gentleman unfortunately didn't realise that there was two, and he was only given one, which makes it worse. The GSF should know that I ordered two. It says two on the bloody invoice and on the click and collect. So yeah, well done GSF, good job, mate. So poor customer now had to go back to pick up the second one, because otherwise I can't finish the job. It's already caused delays and inconvenience, and unfortunately for them, they're gonna have to pay for my time, because I'm literally just here, sitting here, scratching my head off. I can't wrap up and go home and come back. I literally have to sit and wait for them. I've just finished ripping out the old ones, so from now on I'm just going to scratch my head until they turn up. Yeah, great. But this is what happens generally when people source their own parts. Where I get my parts from, Cast Bears in Cheshunt, Daily Mail Road, shout out to them. They're brilliant boys, and they know what they're doing in there. And the reason I say that, they very rarely get things wrong, and what they do is they cross-reference everything to the OE part numbers, to the manufacturer's part number. So therefore, there's no getting it wrong. They use the chassis number, cross-reference to the OE number. Therefore, they make sure every single part that goes out of their store is absolutely correct. I don't remember ever having wrong part from them. Once, which wasn't, it was just a new guy, he still works there. He somehow managed to mix the number plates up. The first two parts, or first one part for it was just a simple service parts. The first part that he put in his system turned out to be the correct one, which was an air filter, I think. And the rest of it, oil filter and pollen filter, was totally wrong. And I'm like, how could that be? How could he get one thing wrong and get the rest of them wrong? Turns out somehow he managed to switch the number plates on the system with probably a previous car's number plate that he used. Therefore, that's what messed it up. So that was the one and only time, and it was a brand new customer as well. You know, sod's law. It's always the case, isn't it? So anyway, don't matter. What's done is done. And back then, I didn't even check myself to make sure that the oil was correct. I just poured it in, and obviously it was wrong oil. I managed to get the filter from somewhere else that day because they were closed on that day. I think it was a Sunday. So what I had to do, filter was correct. I didn't even bother checking the oil, thinking that that's got to be correct. Well, clearly it wasn't. Anyway, so I had to drain the oil again, put the fresh oil in. Yeah, turned out to be one big nightmare. But that was the one and only time they messed up. And that was because the guy was brand new and he was training on the job. And he just messed up. You know, shit happens. It really does. It's just one of those things, isn't it? He knows who he is. But I'll get on with him well now. So yeah, it is what it is, man. Anyway, so here's the car. Yeah, so anti-roll bar, drop links. That's the new one. In a minute, I'm going to fit that one. I can't even fit this one on because they have to both kind of go on at the same time. You can't put one on and then tighten the other one. It doesn't work like that. Because if you look at this bit here and then that bit there at the top, it's gapped. So it's gapped for a reason. And the reason it's gapped is because it goes, one side of it goes on the, I'll show you actually. So let's get that there. There's the anti-roll bar itself, and this is where it bolts onto. It goes through this hole and the nut. So basically it sits like that, but bottom half goes on there, top half goes on there. So for you to be able to do both of them, which one of them is on this side, there it is. So therefore you have to do them both at the same time. You can't do one and then expect the other to work, simply because it's a solid bar. Like when you move one side, it moves the other side at the same time. So there's no flex in it. That's why I released these bolts here, one there and one there, so it gives me a bit more flex. But even with that flex, it's still not enough to actually do one at a time. Joys of mechanics. Whoop, whoop. Okay, I think we're all done finally. So I'll show you the new parts. Speedhead, that's it. Right, so there's the new rear anti-roll bar drop links. Two of them, one on each side. All done. That's that sorted. And that's it for this car for now. Hopefully they're going to flog it off and it's all good. And thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Whoop whoop.